Welcome back. In part one, we did a quick unboxing. We looked at the many parts of the Vello NSD-35 film digitizer. Although it's referred to as the 35mm negative and slide digitizer, I think we've just shortened that to film digitizer or film scanning unit. And here we go. Let's jump into part two. So I've had a chance to try this kit for a couple weeks now, and I've come to some conclusions. First of all, I think this actually works pretty well. There are some things that I would keep in mind. One is that even though I plan to try it with the 10 or the 90mm macro lens, it simply resulted in an enormously long, huge setup. And so I think in this case, the 60mm lens works much better. I probably wouldn't go beyond that. And that's mostly because, you know, your need to continue to add these little extension tubes grows and grows and grows. Now it does come with, well, really three tubes if you think about it. It comes with the one that's attached to the unit, and then it comes with two more. This is, of course, attaches to the filter ring of the lens. Second thing is I would definitely shoot in RAW. I would not shoot in JPEG. I think JPEG probably would be fine if you're only planning to use this for web display. However, if you're looking for anything better than that, I would highly recommend shooting in RAW. You could always shoot RAW plus JPEG, which most cameras allow you to do today. And then you can really move back and forth between the two. I tried it with both black and white and color. What's interesting about black and white is it has these little cutouts here. And what it does is it will show you the film type and show you the frame number. So I think that's a nice little convenience, or a nice little, yeah, it's a nice little feature to have. The third thing is even though all this is attached to your camera, there can be a bit of movement, and you'll see it when you're in the viewfinder. And so you have to figure out a way to stabilize this entire setup. I might recommend actually putting this on one of those smaller tripods, not one of the real cheap tripods, but a smaller tripod, tabletop tripod, that will keep everything very, very stable. You can see some vibrations, which was surprising to me, particularly when I was only holding the camera body. So hand tremors will transfer from the body to the lens, down the tube, and then eventually to your unit. I think this works really well as a light source. There are several different light levels for you to, you know, either brighten or lower the brightness of the light unit. I mentioned this earlier, but this light unit is a big attractor of dust and hairs for some reason. So you'll want to keep this as clean as possible. I would keep a can of compressed air nearby. Then when you need to, just blow it off. I think I'd mentioned if you were to wipe this down with a clean rag, well, if you get a soapy rag with some dishwashing fluid and just wipe it down, for some reason it really cuts down on the ability of this to create static electricity and thereby attract all these dust particles. I think this fits together pretty well. As you notice, it has its own little tripod screw here. But because of the weight of the camera and the lens, I wouldn't attach it here. I think I would really secure the body and then let this hang from it, because this really doesn't have any weight. In fact, you know what? Let's weigh this real quickly. I'm just going to push everything to the side here so we can weigh it. And you'll see what I mean when I say this really doesn't have much weight at all to it. All right, my handy scale. See, and here we are coming in at 7.5 ounces, so really about half a pound. So not much weight, like I said. So one of the advantages that this unit has over the homebrew setup, which is typically you'll see like an overhead, you're going to see an overhead pole with your lens, and then you'll have a negative carrier over your light source. So the advantage that this has over those other solutions is because you're using these tubes, which is that it blocks any stray light from entering the image path. You have to allow everything to sit square with each other. And you have to figure out exactly, roughly, where your focus is going to be. So your best option is to rack this out, not quite to the minimum focusing distance, then slide this back and forth until your image in the viewfinder is roughly in focus. So that means you are going to have to put a slide in first. So as I mentioned, there are two placements for the slide holder. One is in front here, and the other one is right in front of the image. I don't really know which one works best. Here, because you're right in front of the light source, I think you might get a brighter outlook. I think you might get a brighter image. Here, you're eliminating any possibility of any stray light striking the striking your film. So perhaps this one's better. When I look at these two, there's really hardly any difference. So now if you notice, there's a bit of pivot here. So I would set this on, my suggestion would be put this on a flat surface, figure out where is the best place for you to cure this. See, there's a little bit of wobble side to side and then up and down. So once you've sort of centered the image, if you notice when you tighten this thumb screw, it's going to pull the image up. So perhaps you start a little bit lower and tighten the thumb screw. So you might be tempted to think that any 50mm lens is going to work with this setup, but that in fact is not true. So the primary problem that you're going to run into is this, the close focus distance. The truth is that, not the truth, but the reality is that most lenses, most standard 50mm lenses, aren't going to focus any closer than 1.5 feet. I said most. And that's true whether it be, this one happens to be a Minolta lens, but I could really pick out any 50mm lens, and you're going to see that, and you're going to run into the same thing. Here's this Tessar. This one is, once again, roughly 1.5 feet, slightly under. Here's a Carl Zeiss planar. Same thing, 1.5 feet or 18 inches. You really have to get a lot closer. So I did try it, and so you can see how I really just couldn't focus closely enough. You could get around that with some extension tubes. And extension tubes are simply, they're a lot like these tubes that come with this unit, except they go between the lens and the body. And what they allow you to do is just simply move this away from the body and be able to focus much closer. When this unit is pulled all the way up to the end of this tube, what happens is you're going to get a smaller image. And if you notice, it's only taking up, half of the space of your imaging sensor. So that means when you're scanning, you're not taking full advantage of your sensor. Now, by moving this tube closer, you'll see that the image begins to take up more of the sensor. And as long as you can critically focus, that's fine. There's going to be a point in time where you reach the limit of how close you can get, and that is you cannot focus any closer than you already are. So what that really means is that you're not using the full sensor. In this case, we're using a pretty good amount of the sensor, and I would feel comfortable creating scans at this magnification. So let's switch over real quickly to the planar with the extension tube, and then you can see what I mean here. On this side, have it almost all the way pushed in, and then still have enough room to be able to focus critically. And this works pretty well because you are using most of the sensor with this setup. And I probably will end up using this setup, although this Pentax macro lens works quite well. The one thing you absolutely should do with any of these, with this setup, that you should shoot at a smaller aperture. And why do you want to shoot at a smaller aperture? The reason you want to shoot at a smaller aperture is you want to use the depth of field capabilities of that smaller aperture in order to give you a sharper scan. Finally, would I recommend this to somebody who's looking for a lower cost film scanning option? I definitely would. I think this works pretty well. Like I said, remember, keep those things in mind, right? Number one, shoot raw, if possible. Number two, think a macro lens in the vicinity of that 50 to 70 millimeter range are going to work best. I would shoot at f8, f11. I probably wouldn't shoot this wide open, and the reason is you want your best corner-to-corner sharpness, and that's going to be achieved at your smaller apertures. Keep an eye on the type of lens that you're using. With some lenses, particularly like the lower quality lenses, near the edges of the frame, often you're going to have some barrel distortion. That is, straight lines tend to bow outward. And so when they bow outward, then of course you're not getting a true scan. Number four, stabilize your setup. Either put it on a tripod or keep it on a desktop. And finally, number five, I think an electronic viewfinder is going to be a better option for focusing rather than the LCD screen. I also use the option that's available with most digital cameras in that I enlarge the view within the viewfinder. And you could do that with your LCD screen if you only have that as an option, because that will allow you to then zoom in on a portion. It's a lot like the grain focusers that were available when you were making prints, and that was to ensure that your photo was as sharp as possible when you expose it onto the photo paper. And those are my suggestions for using this Vello film digitizer. And now we've reached the end of this video. I want to thank you for spending time with me as I reviewed the Vello NSD-35 35mm slide and film digitizer, or very simply a film scanning unit. If you're curious about what I paid $69.95, not including tax. Shipping was free. Anyway, if you have any comments, feel free to leave them below, or you can send me an email at contact@camera-talk.net. Don't forget to click that icon in the lower right corner of the screen for more content about cameras and photography. And I hope that you'll join me on my next video.